Well, good evening again. I hope you enjoyed some pizza. There's still more back there, so feel free to get some more pizza. This evening, I have the joy of welcoming Paul Zabroske, and he'll share his story of being a 40 plus year blessed husband of Shelly, so 40 plus years, yes, which is awesome. Father of 6, including Timmy, who's hanging out right here, a cradle Catholic, a sinner, and child of God. So welcome to Paul.
Oh, wait a minute, I gotta put that clip on. All right. I like that little button there, okay. All right, can you hear me in the back? Okay, all right. Hey, Bill, how you doing? All right, I'd like to start with a prayer, if you don't mind. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us here together. Please help us to use this time to grow closer to you. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Well, good evening. I have never done a testimonial before. I've talked before groups about various parts of my life. You. Okay, all right. So, Timmy included. But not a testimonial. So I didn't know quite how to approach it. And what I decided to do was to approach it the same way I approach daily prayer, which is the Ignatius Examen. And it's a prayer that you use to look at a period of time. And you look over the period. Usually for me, it's looking over a day. And you look over first in gratitude, the things that you're grateful for. And then as you're going through there, also the things you're sorry for and making amends to God. And then of those things, what moved me? What made a difference? And that could be happy, that could be sad, that could be really, really annoyed, but it stirred me. And you're paying attention to those things that made the difference. And then, well, what are you teaching me? Depending on who's speaking there, who's moving me, whether it be God or somebody else, but if it's God, what is he teaching me? And so I did this for my life. Yeah, funny. I did this for my life, and what I found is there's all kinds of amazing, wonderful things that have happened to me over the 65 plus 65. I'm still 65, yeah. 65 plus years that I've had. But I'll have to say that where I got the most benefit spiritually were from the trials. Where I was moved forward is in the trials in my life, in the tough times, in the bad times, in some cases in the horrible times. That's where I ended up making more progress. That's where I was closer to God, actually. And actually, what I've learned in my life is what I have to watch out for, I have to watch out for when things are going well. Then I'm in trouble. Seriously, then I'm in trouble, because that's when I start thinking, I'm doing this, I don't need God, this is all me, and I have problems. So the trials really are what makes the most sense, and I guess to Matthew Kelly, the messiness, all right? And those are true blessings for me. So then in the Ignatius methodology, you take a look and say, well, you're teaching me this, now how does it apply today and tomorrow? And what do you want me to do today? Okay? So when I went through, and we'll see, okay, we're going to do this. Okay, so there was many lessons as I looked at all the different trials that I've gone through, but 4 of them that came out that I want to talk about today are daily dedicated prayer time required. With God, good can come from any trial, no matter how awful. can come. God is always reaching out to me, always talking to me all the time. I just have to listen. Now, unfortunately, you're not going to hear that today because Becky is a taskmaster and I can only spend 25 minutes up here, or 20 minutes or whatever. So we're going to have a video of this. I'm going to try to do an updated video where I talk about all the different ways that I hear God speaking to me throughout the day. And then finally, my purpose in life is to channel God's unconditional love to others. That's my purpose. All right, so let's go to prayer time. Okay, so I am extremely blessed in two ways. Number one, I have a spot in my house where I can do prayer. And number two, I love the morning. I just love it. The earlier the better. 3 o'clock in the morning, great. It's usually 4, but 3, whatever. So this is my spot. I've got a rocking chair. I have a Virgin Mary statue there, candle, crucifix, and you can't see that in the picture. And I'm actually journaling because I think with my pen. So that's how I pray when journaling. Okay, and this is how I describe this time: pre-dawn, world slumbering, quiet, slow, coffee. You. Amen. So let's take a look at those trials that we were talking about. Okay? And so these are the trials that really stood out as I looked at my life. And the first one is healing through growing up with child abuse. I was from a family of 7, oldest, and we had lived 2 lives. We lived one life that was normal, Catholic family. We all went to Catholic school, did all the activity, suburban house. We were very blessed. And frankly, I built a lot of my family traditions and stuff are built on that. The evening was horror. It was black. It was dark. And it was evil. Second one is a career change I made about midway through my career. And I went from one marketing job to another, but I went from doing one thing over here to running a catalog. And I didn't know anything about running a catalog. So fortunately, I found a great book to read, and I read it between there. And that book really guided me for the first year and a half in that new job. But when we got there, this is when we came down to York, and I was lost. I was over my head, overwhelmed. We didn't have anybody, didn't have any friends, etc. And it was just a time where it wasn't uncommon for me to be in panic or fear. And that could be the middle of the day, it could be the middle of a meeting. Wrestling with addiction. I'm an addict. I've fortunately been on the wagon for 30 plus years, but I have an addictive nature anyways. I mean, ask my wife, she'll tell you if we go to a buffet someplace, I have an addictive nature. But the addiction it's a sense of being totally out of control and destroying things around you. Our specially blessed son, Tim, was born disabled. Okay, he was born. We brought him home. Something was wrong, and within a day we had him in the emergency, in the urgent care, intensive care for children, and he was there for about 3 weeks. They couldn't tell us anything about him. They didn't know anything about him. They didn't know what would happen. No idea at all. And it was like being in a tunnel, a black tunnel, heading full blast and not seeing the end of the tunnel. We just didn't know. Then about 6 years ago, I was doing the usual health thing that everybody should be doing. I was getting my prostate test, and from the prostate test, I got sepsis, and was in the hospital for a week just from the sepsis. So it was dangerous. I was in trouble. And about halfway through my stay there, the doctor came in and said, "Oh, by the way, you do have prostate cancer." So I had that to go through as well. And death was close. It was very real for the first time in my life. And finally, let's see, I think the kids were 8 and 12 when they came to us. 13 and 11, okay. My wife's brother passed away totally unexpectedly, had a 13 and 11-year-old. And the options were either we split them up amongst other people in the family, foster care, which was totally unacceptable, or they come with us. And their mother had abandoned them many years before that. And then their father just passed away suddenly. And we took them in, and we thought it was just be, a loving family, this would be fine. And it wasn't fine. They were so wounded and so deeply wounded that our house was chaos for a long time, for multiple years, in pulling all this, keeping this going and keeping going. So it was chaos. And what was tough about that chaos not only was managing it and living with it, but it was also deciding that my children, our 4 children, they had to make this sacrifice too. Stop. Come on. They had to make this sacrifice too. And that was hard. It's one thing to make a sacrifice for yourself. It's another to have your children make it as well. So, the first lesson, dedicated prayer time. What I was driven to during all these periods, I was driven to, out of fear, out of panic, almost in desperation, just for a relief, for a quiet time. And really, that's what they started out being. They were sanctuary. And then they gradually progressed to a teaching moment, to seeing what was going on and seeing what God was doing in my life, and then beginning to learn from that. And then eventually to a launch pad, where it was seeing all this, and now here's what we can do. Here's what I can do moving forward. And this would happen every time during all those trials. It would be the daily prayer that would bring me back around. And this cycle of sanctuary, school, and then launchpad continues today. I'll have terrible times, and then I'll gradually climb out of that and then move forward. And this is that. And daily dedicated prayer time is absolutely required. And I was a runner in my day, long distance runner, and anybody that's an athlete here that exercises regularly, you know what it's like when you can't exercise today. That's what I feel, that same thing when I can't pray in the morning, when I can't take my time in the morning. So, the next lesson. God can take anything we're given, or at least I'm given, and make something good out of it. Anything. The child abuse, my brothers and sisters, we are tighter. We have an awesome family bond and love, and we're spread out all over the East Coast, out as far west as Kansas, but we're together. And COVID would be an example. We meet Zoom every 2 weeks. So that love is something that came out of this, because we went through this together. Any advantage anybody has, and certainly in my case, anybody has that has gone through a tough time, is that automatic blessing is that you can help others. And you can help, you can be there. You can say, they can say, you don't understand, and you can say, yeah, I've been there. I know it. And guess what? You can get out of this. You can walk out of this. You can make this out of it. This will happen. So that's a blessing that came from that experience. And finally, learning about forgiveness. My parents have both passed now. I think I know I've made progress in forgiving them. I don't think it's done yet. But the gift of being able to forgive is a true blessing from God. And also the understanding with what He's doing for us. What He did for us in forgiving us all the time. This also was another blessing of this. The months of depression, I learned to move with confidence through periods of challenge. Because I faced a lot more awful career situations than I did that one fall. But because of this, I was able to move with confidence through them. I know I've got a base that I can build on. Wrestling with addiction. I don't know if anybody knows about the 12 Steps program. If you haven't, I would strongly encourage you to read them And it's just a short little 12 steps. It is an awesome way of life. Just an awesome Christian-based way of life. And the first 3 steps are, number 1, I'm totally out of control here. I'm totally out of control. And that can apply to all kinds of stuff, including sin, including anger, including frustration. For whatever reason, I can't get rid of this anger. I'm out of control. Recognizing that God is here to help. And he wants to help. And then number 3, letting him do just that and just letting go. And just letting go. And I'm a control freak, and I love to have control of what's going on, and it's the hardest thing for me to do. I use these steps almost every day. Almost every day. And again, I know I've been there, and I've talked to so many different people who are wrestling with addictions, and again, because I've been there, I know how to help. Tim, especially blessed. Tim is the blessing. I don't have to say a whole lot more. Tim has been an amazing blessing for us. And I will tell you that in my experience with him, when we brought him back to the NICU, I was in the room, Shell was not in the room at the time, and Tim went into a grand mal seizure. And I called the nurses over, the doctor came over, they asked me to step away. They began preparing an injection to bring him out of it. And at that point, my prayer was, Lord, give him to me just a little bit more time, and I'll make sure he makes a difference. And he started coming out of the seizure before the medication was applied. And he's been a blessing to us ever since. And not only a blessing as we've cared for him and been able to care for him, but as I've shared with the church here last fall, is there was a period about 6 years ago where I took a look at not only the things that we were doing to care for him and the blessings just in caring for him, but the impact that he had on other people. Because what Tim causes people to do, he causes people to stop and pause and react one way or the other. Sometimes it's out of anger, sometimes it's scared, but more often than not, it's out of smile. And when you stop your life and you smile, that's when the Holy Spirit can do the work, do his work. And he does. And I know he does with Tim, because I have been told over and over and over again that that's the case. Sepsis and cancer, again, I can help others. I've been there. I've gone through it. And also, it enabled me, I won't say that I welcome death, but it enables me now, because I've touched it and been close, it enables me not to live life afraid of death. And that is a true blessing. As far as bringing those 2 wonderful children into our family, number 1, it has proven what a gift our marriage is. I know in some cases that kind of stress will pull marriages apart. In ours, we had our backs the whole time, and we're tough, and knowing that is an amazing blessing, and the gift itself is an amazing blessing. And our children, those children that we ask to sacrifice and make sacrifices, they're blossoming. They're adults of God and of faith. And what more can a parent ask? So with God, in my life, good can come out of it, no matter what. No matter what. There isn't anything that I know that will happen to me that I can't make something, that God can't give me the grace to make something good out of it. Okay, and finally, how am I doing, Becky? I think I'm doing okay. All right. So, finally, this excerpt from Matthew. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and all thy soul, and all thy mind. This is the first and the great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. That second commandment never made sense to me. Never got it. Why in God's name would I want to treat somebody like I feel about myself? And that was where I was at. Okay? I really didn't have a whole lot of liking for myself, let alone love. And so it was, what is this? And in fact, do I want to work on this? It seems kind of selfish. love yourself before you can go on to some, or that's the comparison, so I should be loving myself. But yet I felt compelled to make it, and really led in my spiritual journey to begin to work on this somehow and try to figure it out. So it never made sense to me, but they're saying, where do I start? Well, first of all, I got to start with loving myself. Okay, all right, how do I do that? I look around and I look for the best example, which is God. And Jesus' unconditional love for me. Unconditional love, no matter what. And that's worth emulating, okay? And I could sense the power of that. I could feel the power of that awareness when in a very simple exercise that I did once, and it was like, wow. There are many times in a large family, and I'm sure a lot of you can identify, where especially your adult children, don't listen to what you say. Don't do what you want them to do. Or they say they're going to do it, and they don't do it. And while as an adult child, I can't, at least I don't, ranting and raving and sending to the corner and spanking them or whatever. But inside, it just really eats me up. Really, really bugs me. So I've got this angst over here that I'm wrestling with, and this is in my prayer time, doing those kind of things. This is the kind of things I would do in prayer time. So I got this angst over here, and now let me go over here, and let me just contemplate God's unconditional love for me. And I can feel the peace just saying that. I can feel the peace. So what if when I'm thinking about my daughter who's not paying attention to me, I also think about God's unconditional love. And it was like, wow. The angst just disappears. It just melts away. And what's left is a desire to understand, to listen, and to even accept. And that's where I want to be as a parent. So that was the power of God's love for me. I saw that. So, okay, so here's how I should be loving myself, and I'm beginning to get that. Okay, now the next part is I got to love the other person. Now, I've proven that I'm not too good at loving. Okay, I certainly can't love myself. I'm just learning how to love myself. So what again do I turn to? Well, there's God's love. So, okay, if I can take God's love and I can move it through me to another person, so I can pass His love onto another person, then I'm passing along perfect love. And that's what suddenly began to make sense. And that's where the image in my mind of a channel, okay? And a channel is a pipeline or whatever. It passes the most water through it, the smoother it is, and the less it holds back anything. And what occurred to me is God's love is flowing through me, and I don't want to hang on to any of it. I just want to pass it on. Okay? And I'm thinking, okay, well, let's think now why I have to love myself in order to adequately finish that second commandment. And what made sense to me is God's love's always coming to me. But if I don't love myself, then the love just stays here. Okay? But if I start looking at it and passing that on, if I love myself, in essence, the channel opens up. And now I know how, and I can flow that out to somebody else. And those around me. So that's how I came. Boy, I flipped back and sorry about that one. So that's how really I came to determine what my goal, and this doesn't necessarily mean it's yours. We all have different callings, but my purpose is to channel God's unconditional love to others. That's where I'm at. Jesus, please help me to make all I am today a channel of your unconditional love to others. Amen. Thank you very much.